There we go. You're now on the screen. I had a little bit of a glitch there. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another stream. I hope you're all doing fantastic as always. Today, we're here with a live Q&A with a couple of the team members. Unfortunately, Jason and Kai were supposed to be joining us, but for Kai, it's really early in the morning, and Jason was unfortunately unable to make it at the last moment. But today, I'm joined by Cam, Seb, Laura, and Tyler. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. It's good to have all of you here today. How you all doing?
I guess.
How are you doing?
Hello.
Doing great.
Different, right? We're not flying today, which is nice for once to have a little break from all of the distractions and landing without landing gear.
No pressure on this one.
Which is nice. But yeah, as we just mentioned, this is essentially just a running Q&A today. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible, which is really nice because, especially if you join these streams frequently, you'll understand that the streams that I do when I fly around on Infinite Flight, 9 times out of 10, I'm unable to answer some of the development-related questions. That's why we've got Cam and Laura here today. They'll be able to do an amazing job at that. So all of the questions that you always ask me, and I'm like, no, sorry, I can't answer them. You can now ask them, and we can try and get you answers, which is brilliant. Saves me a bit of hassle as well. So there we go. But right off the bat, if you have any questions, as it's a flowing Q&A, please throw them in the chat right now. We're looking at the chat actively throughout the entire stream, and then later on in the stream, we'll go ahead and do a couple of whip shots, which is really exciting. You definitely don't want to miss that, so stay tuned for that. And then, of course, before we wrap up the stream, right at the very end, we'll go ahead and do a subscription giveaway, which you all love. We do very many of those. So if you are tuning in today, and you are unaware of how these streams work or what happens pretty much in every single stream, we usually fly around, but we also do a giveaway. So if you'd like to potentially win one of these one day, stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and join us on all of the Infinite Flight live streams. But with that said, team, are you seeing any pressing questions in the chat that you'd like to answer so far? I haven't looked because I'm doing the intro, but if you can see anything that you'd like to answer, then feel free to give it a go.
Yeah, when are we adding all the planes, basically?
When are we adding Concorde? I can predict that one already by a mile off.
That's a tricky one.
That is a tricky one. Gonzo just gifted 10 Infinite Flight memberships, which is awesome. Just a huge shout out to all of our channel members, of course. If you're interested in becoming a channel member and gaining access to exclusive perks here on this channel, then consider becoming one today. All of the revenue generated by channel memberships goes directly towards the AOPA Foundation's You Can Fly program. So it goes towards a good cause, and we'd love to have you here as a channel member so that you can access some exclusive perks such as private group flights with staff at the start of every month, which is really nice.
Yeah, definitely a good perk to have. Especially to fly with Dan. Dan's very good at planning routes and just organising some great multiplayer flights. We absolutely love it.
Speaking of which, the group flights, the first one yesterday was an absolute blast. I run the stats a little earlier today, and between the 11-hour time frame that the event was running for, we had 1,078 attendees on that particular route, and then during the first 2 hours, 112 departures. Which was absolutely amazing, an amazing turnout, and it's great to see that you all like this style event. The idea is to, of course, be able to do different style events, the longer events, which those of you who particularly enjoy long hauls love to do. So that was the idea behind that. I personally really like doing long hauls, so I didn't really see an issue with making these sorts of events and leading at the same time officially as an official event. So expect more of those. Of course, the group flights, the idea behind them is for them to be announced ahead of time. I understand that we've seen the frustration in the community recently that events are rather sporadic and you don't really have a good heads up of when these events are going to take place, and that's exactly why we're rolling with this as well, so that we can say a few days in advance, here's an event, hopefully you've got the time to join it, come along, and it just gives you a little bit more of a heads up to be able to fit it into your schedule and make it to these awesome massive group flights. So stay tuned for more of those. Next week we have 2 of them. One of them will be streamed, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And by the way, Cam, Seb, Laura, Tyler, you're welcome to join me on that if you'd like to as well. You can always hop onto the stream if you wish to.
Absolutely.
I can imagine
That's a cool question. Someone asked, someone familiar with iOS development. My question for Laura is, how?
Yes.
I'm sure Laura's very passionately able to answer that.
Knows about iOS development?
No, but how do we manage it, basically?
Oh, no comment.
There's a bunch of questions. I can just kind of rapid fire through some of them.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
do it. Go
All right,
for
let's
it.
send it. I'm gonna start with Nick Morris. Any ideas on when we can see Dallas Fort Worth? To the best of my knowledge, it's kind of in the late stages of its development, which is arguably probably the hardest because that's the review process, tidying up any of the taxiway networks, and just making sure that like the final little details before it's ready for a massive review is done. I wouldn't say the next update, but I'm pretty confident in saying 2023. It looks really cool. I've flown in a couple times just to see the work that's being done, and Andrew's doing an awesome job. Cooper asked, how will the new taxi commands work? So right now it's actually functional. It's working really well. We will definitely introduce it in 2023. I think for the first update where we bring out the taxi commands, we'll likely isolate that feature to a single airport. That way we can really test with one single airport, one taxiway network, and we're thinking Los Angeles, just because that really has a solid taxiway network. It's a place that both controllers and pilots are familiar with and frequent, so we know we can get some good feedback and data from how it's actually working. The game plan for that is that controllers, ground controllers specifically, will be able to drag the path that they want the aircraft to go. It'll kind of highlight that for the pilot as well and really make that control position a lot more engaging. Hopefully it promotes more splitting of frequencies so that you have one person on tower and one person on ground, because they both have a fairly equal workload at that point. But we'll definitely share more of a demo down the road and hopefully organize a bit of a open beta style event where we can really put it through its paces.
Cam, I see a question here that I think you'll be able to answer very well. We've touched it before, but I know you'll be able to give a really technical answer. Ricky's Aviation asked what happened with Project Metal. I know there's a little explanation for that.
So, yeah, Laura can chime in as well if I miss anything. It's still being worked on. We're not branding it exactly as Project Metal directly, because it's actually quite a few things involved in one project. But there's definitely lots of progress going along. We've got a couple of our developers currently fully focused on redoing our renderer, coming up with essentially technical improvements that can, firstly modernize our code base in Infinite Flight, but secondly, it will open the door to a lot more possibilities in terms of rendering effects, in terms of how we can develop our aircraft and our features. So yeah, there is a lot being done behind the scenes. Hopefully you can understand that there's a lot that we can't really share right now because it's subject to change, and as we touched on in the beginning, mobile development always comes with its own quirks that kind of could make it a little bit difficult by the time you get past the final stages. But yeah, there's definitely a lot to look forward to this year.
Yeah, the changes that we're doing with this big project, they if they were on only one platform, it would be somewhat easier, but we develop on Windows, we have iOS and Android, and they all have their own quirks on the platform. They all have sometimes their own texture formats and performance differences, so there's a lot of things that we have to consider. Those types of big changes, you have to think of them kind of like us replacing the parts of an aircraft while the aircraft is flying. So because obviously we have to keep releasing the app, and sometimes some of the changes that Philippe and Kevin are doing may impact the common core of the app, and we're stuck in situations where like I need to change this for the current version for the plane that's flying, but they're like, yeah, but we need to like rework all the pipe to make that work. So we're like, we have to maneuver and make sure that things still work at the same time. So it takes a little more time, but the benefits in the end are going to be way worth all the effort and the wait.
And not to mention as well, like the performance optimizations that have to go into building something new from scratch as well. We can start off with some of the things we've been working on, where they'll run at maybe a couple of frames per second on a PC, but then you need to put the work in, obviously, to make this run efficiently on all the Android and iOS devices we support. So yes, there is a lot of work going on, and I'm very certain we can show some things soon, but you just got to trust us for now.
And to give some more detail, for those who are interested, we're also changing what we call the 3D model format. So when the artists gave us a model, they used to give it to us in a format that was going through a pipeline that's now getting very old, and that didn't support a lot of the new features that we have today in modern graphics engine. So we had to work around a lot of issues. So we're basically taking the models that we have from the artist to convert them to another format that we can load that supports many more things. It's a format that's industry standard today. So that pipeline is more or less working now. So we have the models loading with, we can have more granularity on the texture and on optimizations, all this. So there's been a lot of progress done on that, but it's a grind because we have a lot of models to adapt, and sometimes the regular pipeline will work, but then for some models which are old, like that we made back in like 2013-14, they had some features that we don't use anymore, but that cause problem in the new pipeline. So we have to work around that, find ways to remove those hacks without breaking everything else. There's a lot of work, but we're almost there.
I'll rapid fire a couple more. China Southern 777-300, it's in progress. The ITA A350, that one took a while because it's pretty complex. Anybody that's seen the tail knows it's a tricky one.
Yeah.
But Jarno, the master, has tackled it, and we will definitely bring it this year. As far as I know, it's ready, just needs to be reviewed by some beta testers. The Jet 2 Holidays livery for the 737-800, you can thank Dan for that one, because it has been added to the list, it's been complete, and I think we can get it out before the summer.
It's looking good.
A lot of questions about the A350-1000. I believe Jason previously responded that we weren't going to have any forum votes for that one because the honest reasoning was we just didn't have any intention of actually doing it. There's not many operators. We have the A350-9 out there and functional on infinite flight. But things may change. We can definitely discuss internally, and we'll definitely communicate that on the forum if it's something that we decide to open up. But the reality is we have no intention of doing that one right now.
I think, obviously the demand is there, but at the same time, of course, that there are aircraft in the sim that definitely deserve a lot of attention as to adding brand new ones. Like, for example, the A380. Its current state, it's old, it's a legacy aircraft, but once the rework's complete, it'll be amazing. And we can move on to the next. So,
yeah, and we've upped the standard of our aircraft significantly as well since the A350. Starting with the 777, we just really went for a whole new way of doing aircraft, and you can tell in the quality. But that also conversely takes more time. You get a more detailed model that's more fun to be immersed in, but in general, it just feels like something you can play for longer as well. So yeah, we're spending time on it, and obviously, as Laura said, some of our models go all the way back to 2013. About that nowadays, so we obviously have to remake a lot of them from scratch. That was another question that Aaron A asked earlier before, like, do we rebuild them from scratch or use an old model as a base? Now we just for the very old aircraft, we always rebuild from scratch. Even the more recent aircraft like the 777, we rebuilt it from scratch because the amount of time it takes to improve an existing model versus gathering new materials, at that point it is easier just to start from scratch for us.
Yeah, it's certainly a good reference and like a jumping off point, but ultimately it usually needs to be rebuilt from the ground up.
But I think in the future, I can't think of what year it's going to be when we rework the 777. The models that we have today they're pretty much close to what they have on other sims on other platforms. So we think like this may be like the ultimate rework for most of them. The ones that have the cockpit and everything. but yeah, it's better to restart from scratch because a lot of the models that we had, if you think of like the 330, the cockpit windows were, so it's something that is better to just go from a whiteboard.
For sure.
Anshul asked, are there any plans, on adding another aircraft or another aircraft rework potentially after the A380 this year? Let's not say anything for now, but let's leave you wondering.
I mean, the answer is always yes, and I actually will address this because this is something that comes up commonly, is like, stop working on aircraft and instead do X, Y, Z. We have teams that are just dedicated to just developing the aircraft or developing the livery. So a lot of times whenever you see something in progress, like if we're working on the A380 behind the scenes or even the Challenger right now, that's definitely not impacting maybe some of the other projects that are going on. Whether it's ATC development or just some of the back-end performance, those are entirely separate roles by separate people, which is something that we take pride in. We can always have something going in the aircraft pipeline.
Yeah, I for example don't really keep track of the new liveries in aircraft, but Tyler is always interfacing with the artist, like passing all the details and all the feedback from data on. So there's always someone working on something.
It's quite a process. We've sort of got a more consistent, streamlined flow right now, and liveries is always like such a hot topic in the community. The best way to find out kind of what we're working on is go to the community forum, go to the features category, and then sort by the livery tag, and that'll show you all of just the livery request. And then you can sort that by what the top votes are. That's how I choose what liveries we enter into the pipeline. I literally just go from the top all the way down. And then sometimes outside of those, we'll do staff picks. So that's something that myself or just anyone on the team says, hey, this would be cool to have. Or, for example, Chicago O'Hare, that one's almost done. What do we think about adding this livery to complement it? So we'll typically kind of do a lot of what's on the forum and then a lot of what we think might be cool just for engagement, whether it's an event or a new airport that's coming.
I'd like to quickly, as it was just mentioned, just quickly scratch the surface on Chicago O'Hare at the moment, because it's a little bit of a grey area. As much as we know you'd all love to see it, it's a massive airport, and we'd love to ship it as soon as possible, but because it's such a highly anticipated airport, we want it to be done right as well. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that airport, of course. We're definitely working on it, and we'd love to get it out to you as soon as possible. And we won't promise you when, but it's definitely a priority, and we'd love to get it to you ASAP.
And I'm happy to share that when it does come out, we will have every airline that operates out of O'Hare. So I've gone through the list.
Yeah, that's going to be a very busy airport.
Yep.
Tyler's always the one delivering the good news at the liveries and the airport.
Any Silkway 747 fans out there? Leaky.
Yeah. Talking about liveries, just quickly touched on it. I saw a question regarding the Virgin Atlantic 330 Neo. That is on the list, and it will make its way into the sim. If you didn't already know that already, it's coming. Don't you worry.
So I got a question from the virtual spotter asking if we're planning on resuming work on clouds. Who said we ever stopped? There's a lot going on in behind the scenes. There's a lot that we don't share immediately, just because sometimes it's not visual. There's a lot that goes into actually making it render to begin with, making something render, and then loads of iteration. Like half the time, I'm sure it would be cool one day to share some of our screenshots from our graphics developer, but being able to see it feels like you're tripping sometimes.
Yeah, and not really an announcement, but like if you want to see cool things, we're trying to make things work for Flight Sim Expo in June. Not specifying what exactly, but it's a good target for us to have at least a demo of a few things that we've been working on, and that will be at the booth at Flight Sim Expo.
And if not, maybe we'll have some pictures we can show you. So come and meet us.
Do some landing competitions again, some giveaways.
That's definitely one of the perks of visiting us at the exhibitions, is that you'll be able to get your hands on some early features, which is super neat. Like, for example, next week, Cam and I will be attending the Zurich meetup. If none of you have heard of this yet, definitely head to our community forum to find out more about the in-person meetup we're hosting next Saturday on the 22nd. But I'll definitely, Cam, I'm not sure about you, but I'll definitely be bringing spare iPads with the Challenger on it to let some of the folks have a little fly around. 100% an early flight. A little bit of
I'll bring stuff as well. That'll be good.
A few stickers, keyrings if we have any left.
I have no keyrings left.
I don't think I think I have like 3.
No.
That's about it. Laura, question in Discord. I'm not too sure if you saw it regarding VNav. I'm not sure if you've got that up on your screen, but I know we touched on this in the past, but a reiteration would be pretty helpful for those who are wondering about it.
So basically, it's not really virtual. I mean, it's sort of like vertical VNav, but like the underlying one is the what they call the IAS climb, opposite to the VS climb, which is the only one that we have now, which is, as I'm told, in the airline industry, referred to as the dangerous way to climb, because it just maintains a VS, and sometimes when you get to the flight levels, you can't maintain that VS, so you stall and you crash. So the other way is to use the IAS mode, which is the indicated airspeed climb mode, which tells the plane to fly, to adjust the VS to maintain the indicated airspeed that you want. I have a mode like this in the app that I've been testing. The problem with this mode is it's very counterintuitive. It's actually the same in most autopilots. If you have a Garmin autopilot, it's the same. Like usually the one that the light planes have this mode. But when let's say you arm an altitude, say you're at flight level 250 and you arm 320, you don't touch anything, and you arm the altitude and you say I want to climb in IAS mode, and you just leave it alone, nothing will happen, because it's going to be let's say you were going like 300 knots, it's going to try to climb at 300 knots, but since you already are at 300 knots and not climbing, it's assuming if I pitch up, I'm going to go below, so I can't go up. So you have to make sure that if you engage this mode, you have to power up for climb, and then it'll accelerate and then adjust the VS to match that indicated airspeed. And that explanation is long, and it's typically in the I was talking to people that we know in the community who use this feature. In the airliners, it's easier because they have something like the green dot speed and actual auto throttle that knows what's the maximum climb N1 they can use at a particular configuration, so they can just say IAS and go. But we don't have this information, and it would be hard for us to get accurate information for each configuration of what power we can use. And the assumption could be like, okay, just maybe use 90% in one or 95, but maybe it's not right. Maybe it's too much. And if it's too much, for example, that same configuration, you're at flight level 250, and you want to go 320, and you're at 300 knots. If we assume that a 95% N1 is fine for this climb, if you're light, then 95 is going to cause you to like have a VS that's way too high. And so you're going to reach the limit of, let's say, you cannot climb at higher than 5,000 feet per minute, but it's still too much N1, so you're going to bust through your maximum airspeed on that climb. So there's lots of, it's the same kind of thing, like for every problem that we've had. Yeah, what we've had in the past, it's either because it's not as easy as it sounds, or we haven't had time to do it. In this case, it's not as easy as it sounds, and it seems like there's going to be a lot of confusion on that mode. And we're going to get emails. It's like, it's not working, it's not working, it's not working. And as you've noticed for the past couple minutes, the explanation is lengthy, and there's reasons for that. So
Seb will love those emails.
Definitely. It's always fun with those kinds of emails for sure. I mean, not those kinds, but yeah. I forgot VNav and descending, and airplane crashed. I don't know why. And
Someone
lovely.
says 89% N1 always, not necessarily. Because if you're super heavy and you still want to climb, and you already are at like 90% N1 at flight level 250, then nothing is going to happen. It's going to stay where it is because a higher VS is going to cause the indicated airspeed to drop, so it can't climb.
Lots of questions about future iterations on ground service equipment.
I was about to say the same thing, Tyler. You go.
So this is a mix of work that I do and Cam is doing. The GSEs have been reworked under the hood between the time we shipped them and the last update. Well, actually, not really the update that you guys got, but the update, the 23.2 update has a rework of the internal system to allow for synchronizations of those services on the server. So when someone asks for stairs, you're going to see stairs on your end. When someone asks for a jet bridge, you're going to see it. Same for any other kinds of services.
So yeah, that can just segue into multiplayer. So if you've been following along on the expert server or any of the servers recently, you've probably noticed that we've been doing quite a lot of work on them. People were asking about a few bugs as well and kind of what the status is on that. So we've been working with IFATC to gather a lot of information, and essentially this is the same case as other things we've talked about. With old features, like the multiplayer servers needed a performance update and needed a kind of an internal rework to bring them up to our modern standards of doing things, and to be able to allow for these sort of features to be possible. So we've made some good progress in that. There's still a few cases that I'm still working on, and we're hoping to test these very soon. But behind the scenes, this has allowed for a lot of improvements in terms of this state synchronization for both for airports and for aircraft. So yeah, very soon, hopefully, I'm hoping that we can start to show some more improvements there, and it should be a nice improvement for the experience online. But as with everything, this stuff is complex and it's got a lot of moving parts, so we've got to be careful that if we change one thing, as we've seen, this has broken other features for ATC or other features that people are experiencing on long-haul flights, which is hard to reproduce. So it takes time, but I think we're making progress.
Lots of persistent questions on the A320 sounds. I think we covered this in one of the last streams, actually.
Mm-hmm. It comes up a lot. Definitely.
Laura's favorite subject.
Yep. Laura's favorite.
She's like, well, gotta run. See ya.
Yeah. Oh wait, my computer.
Where did Laura go?
My camera's acting up.
Oh. Well, that could be the truth.
I don't think I have the perfect short answer for that. Anybody else want to take?
Neither do I. I think this might be a
stab
Laura
for the
thing.
TLDR.
No,
I can.
yeah.
Do you want to take it, Laura? Or me? Okay.
I mean, we've okay, I'll go quickly.
You can do it.
We've talked about it. Like the sounds are complex because we need to get the proper sounds. It's sometimes difficult to do it, and one of the main issue that we have with it is that the library that we use, the sounds are pretty big in terms of memory, and we're not certain at this point that we can manage loading more sounds without having to at some point maybe rolling them back and making people angry because it turns out that we can't load all those sounds in live. So there's like a whole bunch of issues that we have to solve and make sure of before. I understand the frustration. It's just sometimes we have to make hard decisions. This is one of them.
Question
It's
from
obviously been a hot topic internally too, but
yeah.
I feel
Yeah,
like
it is
we're
definitely
all
tough.
aware of the want and desire. It's just some hurdles to get through.
The thing is, we all want it. At the end of the day, the things that you want as the community, we also want them. Without a shadow of a doubt, we'd love to add them eventually. And best believe it's of our best interest to, of course, please all of you and release all of the things you want eventually. Development is just a long process.
It's a long process, and it goes back to the things we said of like multiplayer or with Project Metal. Like you change one thing and it breaks another indeterminate number of things as well. So we've been releasing updates pretty frequently, well, last year at least, and this is now making it a little bit of a consideration too. So like how can we ensure that we can keep pushing all this content, all these new features, whilst at the same time working on these big changes, whilst at the same time some people brought up iOS crashes. This is a perfect example. Like these have started increasing in frequency. Poor Seb's absolutely lost his mind trying to track these, as have we, trying to investigate them a lot. And the short answer is sometimes that the iOS updates can change memory requirements. We just have to adapt to that. But if we're in the middle of a cycle like we are now with our renderer update, that pushes some optimizations down to a future stage. So we're working as quick as we can, but always there are many moving parts.
Question from CMAS Aviation. What about the pull forward feature, which does show, admittedly, of course, it's inevitable that when I do the full flight streams, the pull button does show when I push back. The roadblock at the time when we were developing this feature was mostly, I think the biggest part was the ATC side of things. How do you request a pull to a specific part of the airport? I think that was the biggest roadblock at the time. That's all I can actually recall, actually. But Laura, maybe if you have anything to add to this, that would be brilliant, because it gets asked quite a lot, and it's shown in literally every single stream, and it's functional. So
there's been a debate about this. I was more inclined to release it, but Tyler came with some issues that were right.
Compelling arguments.
Compelling arguments. So we ended up not using it for now, but it could be something that when we'll have the actual ground progressive taxi instructions, is something that we can add at that time, because we'll have more time to go back to this.
Part of those instructions is being able, and this is still a work in progress too. This is kind of a debate, like, do we request specific parking spots or just a general terminal or the FBO ramp? But with that ground feature, pilots would be able to actually ask for where they want to go. So if you're simulating like an aircraft reposition and you're going, say, San Francisco from a gate to the United Maintenance Hub, or the hangars over there, like how do you ask to go there? Just request taxi to parking. Like the controller would have no idea that your intention is to go across the 2.8s, to cross 2 runways opposite direction of planes trying to exit. And there was just a lot of unknowns there about how it would work. So I think the pull forward feature would be a lot more usable once the ground stuff is ironed out.
100%.
And when we synchronize the ground states properly as well. So because right now you would just see an aircraft moving forward at 3 knots with nothing around it. So that would look rather interesting.
Yeah.
That's funny. I remember, I think I've already said this one, but ages ago when the feature was initially added, I decided to pull a 777 from one side of Dubai airport all the way to the other. And I don't think obviously no one had a clue what was going on. I was taxiing at 3 knots. My engines were off. It just looked so funky. And then I asked to cross a runway, and it took about 3 years to get across it.
And that's the thing too, is it's really slow. Like, do we have dynamic speeds for if you're towing versus just like backing out of a gate and then kind of repositioning into an alleyway to engine start? There's some stuff to solve.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are just over halfway through the stream, and we have something pretty cool to show you. Team, are you ready to show it?
Send it.
Okay.
Go on.
3, 2, 1.
Since you felt like this, been a while since you felt like this.
There we go. Just a quick teaser for you for the Challenger 350. How was that?
That was a pretty cool trailer.
Gets the hype train going.
I saw bugs. Never even fixed it.
Then you have some work to do tonight, then.
Yeah, still a work in progress. That's one thing
Yeah.
to remember when watching that video. Of course, we will definitely upload the HD version across our social media channels when the stream finishes. So, of course, you'll be able to play that back in full quality as soon as
And
you
find
finish
the
the stream.
bugs.
And find the bugs.
Do we want to talk about the Challenger? What do you think of it so far, Dan?
I think it's I mean, I did an 18-hour flight, not direct, but I did a very long session with it the other day, and it's a really enjoyable plane, and I really like the idea of being able to fly to the airports that you wouldn't usually fly to. Like, flying commercial jets is fun. I like recreating the IRL flights, but at the same time, executive travel is pretty cool. The creativity side of it is great. You can get creative with the routes that you fly, and it will definitely open up a lot of route opportunities and event opportunities. So yeah, my opinion so far is it's a pretty neat aeroplane. It's really, really nice, and it's great fun to fly. So it should be a pretty nice plane.
I like the
hands
general sentiment from our beta team is like it's the plane we never knew we needed.
Yeah.
Because again, like it's so diverse. You can go from these tiny airports, like small to small, or you can literally go from Los Angeles to some uncontrolled field in Washington. Like it's extremely diverse. It allows you to do short flights, long flights. The performance is pretty incredible, like 7,000 feet per minute on your initial climb. Once you get up to 250 knots, it's
like a
really
rocket.
fun. And I think the cool thing is that it doesn't really fly like a lot of the other stuff we have, like just the whole flow. It's something else to master and learn. Like one thing is how fast things happen on departure. Like it's obviously pretty powerful, so you hit your rotation speed quickly, your gears coming up immediately at 400 feet, you're turning off the APU and you're raising the flaps. You know, like that's a lot of stuff happening in a pretty short period of time while just trying to, you know, navigate, establish your climb, all that kind of stuff. So it's cool.
It is a fun plane. The flight model is still work in progress.
You had a little bit of a bit of a rage earlier today.
Yeah, because there's usually like there's two parts in the way I work on the flight model. There's the initial version. Which is based typically on the closest plane that we have of that type. And then there are some tweaks to support a few things. And usually I'm never happy with that model because there's always something that's weird that I move too much, that I've adjusted in the wrong way. And I think that's the model that was available until today in the beta. And so I went back this morning and redid basically the wings, like reworked on the wings because they were just non-standard. And I've always had issues with planes like the CRJ, the 200 to 1000, and even in the 717, which was the original one like that. It was always difficult because the wings, like the elevator and the main wing, they're so close together. So the lever you have between the whole thing is not as large as what you can have on bigger planes. So it's a little trickier to tune. So far the new model I like better, but then it's sent to beta, and then tomorrow morning I'm gonna wake up to 1,000 new problems that I've caused by the thing that fixes 2 problems, and that's 50. So
1,000. That's a bit over the
Yeah.
top. 2,500. No.
but there's it's always nice to have feedback from actual pilots who try the sim or give us feedback on the roll rate, which is sometimes something that you cannot find online, because there's things like the moment of inertia that you have because of the wings. Is the roll rate because the ailerons are small, or is it because the wings are heavy? There's always thing that you have to tweak and kind of figure out, because it's impossible unless we simulate every atom around the airplane. It's impossible to actually simulate the whole thing. So we have to cut corners and figure out, does it feel right, and give it to someone who has flown that plane so they can tell us those how those, like, what the performance is and how it behaves in real life, how we compare
and
to it.
the manual never really covers like the quirks or just the little things that somebody that flies it every day notices. Like, you know, if you're a little bit above your ref speed, you can cut throttle at like 50 feet or more. Typically it's
Yeah.
at 30 feet. It more or less lands itself with ground effect. Like, just a lot of little small nuances
Yeah.
that are pretty helpful. Sometimes it's not even about the data, where it's like this exact figure. They just say it should feel like this, and
Yeah.
I feel like that's enough for you to capture.
And it sometimes it's not, even when I have this information, it's not super easy to actually make it work like the real one, because we've had situations where two pilots kind of say different things, who've flown the plane, but they just have different sensitivities, and they did have their career path took them to different kinds of planes, which, like, flying a 737 versus coming from a CRJ 200, like the way the way they're going to feel the plane and make comments about how the plane flies specifically is not going to be the same. So they're
Yeah.
just going to brush off something that's like, yeah, the plane's already typically like a, you know, pretty level attitude on approach, but a 737 pilot is going to be like, no, it's like the 737 is typically very like nose high, but this one is different. So someone that doesn't have all the experience may not have the same kind of feedback.
And it is deceiving, because like I thought having no slats being like an RJ2, it would just fly a little nose down, and actually it's neutral, if not plus. And another deceiving point was, you would think private jet, it's really snappy in the roll, but Deer Crusher actually mentioned that it flies a lot like a dump truck, or the 777 feel, where it's like a really heavy, slow turn in. And that's stuff that we can capture and kind of tweak so that it has the right feel, that doesn't necessarily always have to have some data point attached to it that you plug in.
Yeah, and this, like, adjusting those things sometimes causes adjustments
Unintended
that we have to do to the autopilot, right? So
Yeah.
if the autopilot is tuned for a certain response to the controls, or a certain moment of inertia in the roll axis, or any kind of other changes that affect the way its tuning is gonna react to different kinds of things happening to the plane, then we have to go back and tune the PIDs, which is the systems that control the feedback loop for the autopilot. And that sometimes can be a pain, because we can get into situations where the PID is going to work fine at low altitudes, but then it's going to cause the plane to balloon up or just oscillate. And then sometimes we even have, like, talking about the autopilot, we even have situations where the plane is going to fly fine at certain altitudes and certain configurations, but then it's going to start oscillating. And then what's interesting is that if you talk to the real pilots, they're going to say, yeah, if the manual either says do not use it below this speed, or when you have more than this much flaps, or it'll start doing that. And then some people also have planes that are not tuned properly, and then I've had a discussion with people recently that they were telling me that the LNAV mode on their I think it was a Piper Comanche or something, was always oscillating on the track. So they have the same problems that we sort of have in the sim, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's tough.
And this discussion about autopilot as well, it's a good point. I think a lot of people sometimes don't realize the complexity of simulating something like this as well. Like, I was speaking with one of our third-party developers a few weeks ago, who was asking if it was just, if vertical speed is higher, move the plane up. But in reality, when we're applying a full physical model to this as well, for an aircraft that's moving with certain characteristics, there's a few layers of complexity that get added to that. So
yeah, the like, I would say the most the easiest example that the mind directly goes to, like, if it's lower, just increase the the VS. But then it's not always like that, because if you do that, you're going to end up with something that settles below or above the specified VS. Well, there's more things that you have to take into account, and that has to deal with integrals and derivatives. But it's not as complicated as it is in class.
So that answers Pingu89's question: do you use calculus in coding? Yes.
Sort of, but like for a brain like mine, the calculus and all the formulas that you see in school, I just couldn't make sense of any of it. But when it's in code, it makes sense to me. When it's in code and applied to something, then it does make sense. When I was studying, I just couldn't understand. Like, I understand the basic principles of integrals and derivatives, but I was like, what is it applied to? I just couldn't get it. But now it makes sense, and it's actually pretty easy.
Yeah, and
Then
I think it's the
ChatGPT
same.
Came along.
It was pre-ChatGPT. I wish I had
said that exact
ChatGPT.
same.
Well, I think it's the same for a lot of us devs in the company. I think it was Mario in the comments asked how many devs we're. We're about 4 of us full-time, a couple part-time, and I think all of us have kind of like the same idea of how we approach things and how we learn. We're all very much the kind of people that want to see something in action if we go to learn something. For Laura, it's the flight physics, like that's her baby basically. For the rest of us, there's always something that we're just going to go ahead. We'll become very obsessed with it for a while and research it and build something with it, and then we'll move on to another thing that we find interesting. But it's one of the cool things about building a flight simulator, and I think why we love it so much is that it's never the same thing from one day to the next. There's always a different challenge, and it's always becoming more interesting. And I think it's the same likewise on the community side. Tyler and Dan, you guys can talk about it. And Seb for support, I'm guessing.
My biggest challenge is time zones. Oh, it's a nightmare with events. But
that's Cameron's biggest challenge too.
Oh, yeah.
I saw someone ask about adding 5 times speed in multiplayer. Wouldn't that be fun?
Some
For
people
the
have
pilot, not the controller.
it. Some people have it though.
It's crazy. I can't imagine at any point in time having any multiplayer game with users having different time resolutions. That would be...
It works fine for me. I mean, for the people that have it.
Yeah, I know it works fine for you when we do our when we've done our casual races and stuff like that.
Okay. In my defense, I use it. Okay, in the defense of the person using it, they're only using it when they're alone, and there's like, okay, it's me. I would never use it, on approach, on an event. It's not cool. So
I use it to like film tutorials to like if I'm filming the takeoff and then getting to cruise, I'll just 5 times speed to get to my cruise altitude, film what I need
it's
to, and
useful
then
for that. I mean,
when you have the 5 times speed, this is when you need the indicated airspeed climb mode.
exactly.
Because things
Gets a
quickly
little scary.
happen. Yeah, it's like you gotta be on the ball.
I mean,
For
I'll be,
ATC, just a challenge. It's a bit more, a bit more speed, but they can handle it.
I'll be honest. Someone challenged me to a race mid-cruise in yesterday's event, and I was like, "Sure, good luck."
Let me just push this button.
It's great fun.
Quick questions here. Do you ever consider an in-game chat? I think we've talked about like more ways to engage in-app when you're flying, but there's always going to be that security, just moderation concern, and we obviously have an obligation to safeguard our users since it's a very wide variety of ranges of ages and just
Cultures, everything. And
Yeah, but there's
it's also about the experience as well. If it's like a typing chat while you're in the middle of talking with ATC on approach into a busy airspace, that's moving your attention away to something else. And how do we build this so it works nicely on an iPhone or an Android phone? There's a lot to consider this.
But that being said, we have taken some steps to add information like usernames, whether it's Discord or things that are recognizable from the forum. So I would say the best way to kind of reach out or connect with people, like I know when I fly, sometimes I just see the same names over and over, and they'll tag me on Discord or reach out on the forum and just say like, hey, nice to see you. Definitely do that. It's a really good way to make friends, maybe you find some commonalities, like you both like flying the F-18. It's a good way to join up, maybe do a flight of 2, or just, keep in touch and, share different route ideas, or maybe find your way to a virtual airline together.
And there's like the issue of live chat obviously is the issues that can come with people chatting and being non-civil with others.
Unruly.
Yeah, there's some stuff that's coming up with AI that we can use to detect things early before we actually dispatch the messages to people. So I think things are changing. Obviously, it would be nice to have this, but yeah.
I mean,
You
I guess
One
for
question.
now. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go on, Tyler.
I was just going to answer
Oh.
another random question about basically segregating the military crowd and letting them have their own server. I think the fun part is the coexistence of all different aircraft types, GA, commercial, military. That's what makes it fun, challenging, just, I don't know, unique aviation environments when you have all of those different types of aircrafts and speeds and capabilities kind of just coexisting together.
Just,
Well, here's a good question. Ian asked if we'll put tutorials in Infinite Flight for beginners. Well, that's good news coming for 23.2.
Mhm.
dun, dun, dun.
Loads of cool things coming there. Want to talk about it a bit? Or...
Tutorials, and when you have one tutorial, basically kind of like a story. And maybe you can make other stories.
Yeah.
It's,
Can leave it at that.
Leave it at that. Build the anticipation, maybe,
Yeah.
or it can be elaborated on. That's not up to me.
A380 news. Do we want to talk about that? I don't.
Swiftly
I-
move.
I know. We definitely know that Booney wants to talk about that. That we do know.
So we did share a whip of that already, correct?
The 380. Not yet.
Maybe we should something. Yeah. Do we?
Didn't know. Nothing yet. We no. Wait, no, we
No.
did. We did. No, it was. It was a
Yeah, we
section.
did.
It was
Oh,
a
we did.
fuselage section. Yeah. No, I remember now. I was like, did we?
Like, Booney
Yeah,
will
so
know.
it's-
Booney, did we share an A380 picture?
He knows.
Let me check.
He would know.
Yeah.
It's not really much further beyond that point. Like I would say the initial stages of aircraft development are just a lot of, broad stroke fuselage development and getting dimension sizes and stuff right before it really gets down to some of the detailed shots that you see at the end of our cycle. But the A380 is actively being worked on alongside some of the finishing touches of the Challenger 350.
But yeah, remember the A380 is also a big plane, so there is a lot of detail that goes into it, and Jarno is very good at making these models, and I think you'll notice it straight away. I think he's done the cockpit already, or he's working on that, but either way, it's going to look great.
Isn't that just a copy and paste of the 320 or something? I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was going to say something. I forgot. Tyler, do you want to touch on, maybe we can give a little bit of promo to IFATC whilst we're here?
Yeah. I always love shouting out the IFATC crew. They are as active as ever. We have a pretty massive team. We have an exclusive Discord server that all of our members get to join, and that's where they communicate where they're open, get to hang out, chat, talk about where they're flying, training, recruiting, everything else is hosted there as well. If you're interested in joining ATC, you can go to if-atc.com. That's where our application is actually hosted. Or you can just head to the community forum, and it's really easy to just search Infinite Flight ATC Recruiting, or just go to the recruiting category, and it's always pinned right there up top. So to join, we've got a couple quick tests to get through. We have training and tons of resources available if you need them. And yeah, we'd really love to have you. It's a really, really, really solid group of people.
I mean, IFATC, to those watching the stream as well, you all do an absolutely amazing job. I mean, I see it firsthand during official events, and I seriously do not know how you do it. I could never do it myself.
Yeah, I don't know
They
either.
work some serious high volume traffic, and they do it really well.
You should pitch them to the FAA.
I know
Yeah.
we do have a staffing shortage, and I'm working 6 to 8 weeks, 10-hour days. So
Well, there you go.
maybe we could just invite some of them, and I'll get my life back.
But it always blows me away every time I do something on multiplayer. Just as soon as I deploy it, just seeing the influx of data and like ATC commands being sent back and forth is just insane. Like, it would be cool if I can maybe share like the log one day when I do a restart and everything starts coming back in as soon as the ATC connect.
Yeah, and it's always cool from my perspective, at least. I think one of the things I enjoy the most is just seeing how serious they take it, because you know, when somebody's going to open Atlanta or Newark or something like that, they don't just like open on a whim and just, here we go, let's wing it. I mean, they're studying stars, they're studying the SIDS, they're coming up with kind of like a general game plan of like altitudes and where they're going to try to keep traffic, and coordinating with other people, and like if center's going to be open, where do you want me to feed the traffic? Where do you want them slowed to? What altitude do you want them to cross this area at? So that's really cool, because I mean, that's really what we do in the real world as well, and they take the initiative to provide the best possible realistic experience.
I can't quite remember exactly what the thread was, but Balacaccini created a thread one time that was really, really in-depth with controlling approach, something along those lines. It's incredible the lengths that the controllers go to. Honestly, it's absolutely insane. You'll do a brilliant job.
And having a community of like, I mean, really global users from every single part of the world. When I send out the ATC schedule and somebody knows like Mumbai is going to be on X day, it's the day before, they're already in the controller chat, kind of like briefing everybody. This is typically where these people park. This is where they park. We use this runway for departure. This one's not used. This one is. So it's kind of cool, because I feel like we get a really authentic experience for wherever you are in the world. It's not like they're just using some off the wall configuration that they came up with the second they opened.
We could also
Pretty
segue
cool.
onto that and give a shout out to the scenery editors as well that like allow all the ground control and everything to be possible. It's really impressive. I had some questions about the scenery editor coming through as well. For any airport editors watching, it is still a focus of ours. We've just been having to look at a couple of other things in the app right now. But yeah, it's really impressive. Like honestly, like every time I do the airport build, seeing all those names pop up and everyone that has contributed and the amount of just data there, it's insane. So thanks to everyone that does that.
Yeah. I mean, really, just the amount of airports per update at this point is insane. And I will say, this is one of the cool things about the Challenger coming, is that most of our new to intermediate editors are working on small to medium-sized airports. And before the Challenger or before some of the other GA aircraft, it was tough to like really find something that made those airports, I guess, usable to the masses, because again, most people look for like what's the main hub or what's the biggest airport in this release. But now I think these smaller airports become a lot more relevant because the Challenger can frequent them.
And we're definitely doing some work in app as well that can help promote some of these airports with the Challenger.
Yep.
So I won't say much more, but watch this
There's
space.
your hint.
Tyler, question about the Lauda livery.
Yes.
Should we drop it? Should we let them know?
Yeah.
It's
Sure.
coming. It's on the list. Like many
Maybe
other
we can
liveries.
share that. Maybe we'll share it on social media this week. How about that?
Let's do it. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Stay tuned for
Be
a
on the
whip shot.
lookout.
I like how you asked it in public, Dan, like it was inevitable you were going to confirm it.
Like, what if I said
Did we
no?
tell them?
Yeah. If you said no, then we'll still do it anyway.
Too bad.
Did we have something about weather stuff?
Yeah, I was
Because that's
about-
been asked.
about to mention it. So the weather, it needs the new graphics update basically. We could add weather in the current one, but it would have to be redone with the new system. So we just basically once we'll move over like the main development to this new renderer. We'll be able to have way more things that we do, and we already have some work that's been done. It looks pretty amazing, and we don't like we've typically tried to have a more measured approach when it comes to new features. I've seen comments about we don't add as many features as others. Great. The problem with adding many features is at some point you back yourself in a corner because you can go really fast when you're starting, but at some point those features are a burden on you because when you want to make changes to something, well, you're stuck because the smallest changes impact all those features that you developed in the past, and then you have to figure out how to make those still work or remove them and face an uproar from the users because the features are going to be gone. So this is a balance. We try to be a little more measured and try to have things that we are sure can stay for the long term and not have to be a problem to support later. And this is part of the reason why some of the changes that we're working on took so long, is because we've had this technical debt that we've had to overcome. But yeah, when it comes to weather, rain, clouds, and more advanced, atmospheric things, we're working on it, and hopefully once this new update once this new system is part of the main development channel, we'll have more things coming at a faster pace, and that includes, of course, lights, and a lot of more like newer features like that.
To put it simply, we still have a good chunk of the code running that's very similar to what was running on Windows Phone 12 years ago when we released. So it's part of the joy of developing something that goes on for so many years. We keep adding things to it, and eventually it comes to a time where we either need to improve it or as Laura said, like we've got to find solutions. But yeah, definitely working.
And
we do see a finish line, to answer someone's question there. Yes.
Yeah, we see the finish line. We have a target for Flight Sim Expo to have something to show, at least at the booth, not to release, but at least something to show. And then, like, as we always say, 90% of the time, the development, takes 10%, but the biggest chunk is the optimization, figuring out how to fit it on devices and figuring out all the bugs that come with it. So yeah, we're super excited about this. It's gonna be great when, like, if we can pull off what we're seeing in the screenshots today. But like, rest assured, like the work we're doing, we've tried different ways to do this work, and it includes getting off into like different what we call branches of work, but then it becomes difficult to merge it back into the main development channel. So now what we're doing is like we're doing this work at the same time. So basically the version that you have today has stuff for that new update. It's just not activated. And that gives us a way to keep development going with those new features and the old features kind of cohabitating for a little bit until we can kind of turn off the old stuff and just, give power to the new things. And I've seen comments about my necklace.
Yeah.
It's actually an infinite flat necklace.
And it's made out of
amazing.
It looks
very
like the
expensive
logo.
diamonds.
No, it's made with little.
I didn't even notice it until someone commented it.
Smashed up iPad pieces.
Yeah, smashed up iPad pieces.
We recycle.
Well, just looking at the time here, we're actually getting quite close to the end of the stream. Before we wrap up, we're going to do a very quick giveaway, and there's maybe room for just one more question that we can answer whilst the giveaway is rolling. Just very quickly, the way the giveaway is going to work, it's going to be an active user giveaway. So if you've actively been typing in the chat for the past 5 minutes, you'll automatically be entered. That's how it's going to roll. In literally a minute's time, we'll go ahead and roll it and see who wins. So with that said, let's pick one more question.
Will Flight Sim Expo exclusives be shown to the people that can't attend? Typically, I think we've always kind of done a recap in the past, or the expo or wherever we're kind of showing a sneak peek of something. It kind of kicks off when we publicly share it. That event is just an opportunity for people to see it and get some hands-on time, maybe a day or two prior to others getting to see it.
Laura, okay, whilst we have a chance, very quickly, Laura has the idea to fire a very quick question that each of us have to ask. Seeing as it's your idea, Laura, I think you should come up with the question because right now my brain's fried and I can't think of one.
No, I meant like find a question that's not related to Infinite
Oh,
Flight,
okay.
and then we all have to answer in like 10 seconds maximum.
Okay, everyone in the chat right now, ask a random question that's not related to Infinite Flight. Go.
And then Dan picks it.
I'll pick it and we'll roll with it. Anything. Just within reason.
I don't know. Everybody's music genre. It's like your one hobby outside of Infinite Flight.
There you go, I've got one. No, go on,
Plenty.
go on, Seb.
No, I just noticed that some of them are really funny.
Here we go.
Like what's Dan's phone number? That's a funny one.
Here we go, one by Andrew. Sushi or pizza? There we go.
Oh, pizza all day.
I would say
Yeah, pizza.
sushi for me.
Sushi any day of the week.
There we go. That was nice and quick.
Wait, what was yours, Dan?
Sushi.
All
Sushi
right.
wins.
Pizza's good, but I feel like you can't beat a bit of sushi.
Pineapple on pizza is a crime.
Yeah.
Well, I would say otherwise. I wouldn't choose it, but if I was given it, I would definitely eat it.
I would say any kind of like vegetable should be considered a crime on a pizza, but that's me.
Doesn't come with tomatoes anyway.
That's fair enough. You can have a pizza without tomato sauce, at least.
You can have like the milk cream or whatever.
But
Oh, the
that's
white
not.
base.
Yeah, I haven't tried that.
This is random.
Sushi on pizza.
Why
Sushi
not?
pizza.
Guess it could work. Not very well.
We can ask Mid Journey. It'll give us something. And
Or is it
ChatGPT
good one?
for a recipe.
So, someone's asking, what's your IFC password backwards? That's a good question. 3, 2, 1, go.
Anyway, I'm really conscious on the time. Ian, we've just rolled the giveaway. Ian, you are the winner of this giveaway. You'll receive a month to Infinite Flight Pro. Could you please just leave us your community forum name in the chat so that I can go ahead and contact you once the stream ends so we can get that sub towards you ASAP. Are you here, Ian? I'm sure you are.
Yeah, I saw him.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Indeed.
Ian. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, I've got the forum name. Ian, expect a message on the forum after the stream or later on this evening with your prize. With that said, just very quickly, of course, we're going to wrap up the stream now. Cam, Seb, Tyler, and Laura, thank you so much for coming on to this stream today. It's been a pleasure to talk to you here and answer as many questions as possible. If you'd like to say your outros, then be my guest, say your goodbyes, and then I'll wrap up the stream.
I'll say thanks everyone, all the subscribers, the people that are supporting Infinite Flight and have for many years means a lot. We're working hard to make everyone as happy as we can. So thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, I echo that. It's honestly an absolute joy to be able to work on this and deliver. And honestly, it's going to be a great year. So looking forward to it and hopefully see a bunch of you next weekend in Zurich.
Looking forward to that.
Shout out to the IFATC crew, and if there's any really pressing questions that we might have missed that pertain to ATC or just anything in general, reach out on the community forum. Always happy to chat and answer your questions.
Seb?
Yes. I'm so bad at these things. Come on. I was just.
You're on the spot now. Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's
but
do
someone commented that they love my beard. Okay, thank you.
Care tips.
That's your outro done.
Yeah, that's my outro. That's all I need. All I need.
So, you're the only one of us that like streams on Twitch regularly, though. So surely you should know how to.
Not regularly anymore, but yeah, but sometimes, from time to time, and then
Subscribe
I
to
scream.
Seb if you want
No.
to watch Swedish.
And then I scream. Yeah, Cameron was saying you're not allowed to scream in Swedish on this stream. I was like, okay, come on, be nice.
Funny.
Yay!
All right. Well, with that said, I would like to say a massive thank you to everybody who's joined this stream today. it's been an absolute blast to be able to answer as many questions as we can. And again, I would just like to thank Cam, Seb, Laura, and Tyler for joining me on this one. It's been great fun. Of course, we can do more of these in the future, so keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. Timestamps, if you would like to rewatch this stream and find a specific part that you would like to re-listen to, then my job for this evening is I'm going to timestamp this stream so that you can easily identify the part of the stream that you'd want to watch back. In addition to that, of course, the Challenger 350 teaser video will be uploaded relatively soon on our YouTube channel and across other social media channels as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. With that said, thank you all for watching. It's been a pleasure. I'm just going to say my usual outro, even though we've not been flying. Keep the dirty side down, and we'll see you in the next stream. As always, take care. Goodbye.